Come into the garden, its magical trees dapple the sun as they sway with each lazy breeze. They'll set your mind at ease. Pretend you're a child with nothing to hide. Then we'll join hands and watch the universe swing wide.
I felt so impelled, absolutely impelled, to connect children with the earth. I mean, this is it. This is what we're all about. And so I started the Saratoga Community Garden with the help of Alan Chadwick and the help of all our friends. Jackie and her husband and all of Saratoga helped. And we had the most amazing 10-acre garden you can imagine. And it was during the last days when they said, of course, we'll never use this land. There are cemeteries at the end of it. But then they had a new head of the Oddfellows that came in. And they said, we need this land. And so, sure enough, we had to give it up. But by then, we were having 6,000 children in there a year. It was simply wonderful. But you have to be connected with the earth. And I feel so dedicated to that now that I am in my 90s and approaching the earth more and more every day. I do feel that it is something, oh, thank you, that needs to be, needs children to be connected out playing outside. Thank you, Jade. That's so sweet. Kata, you know that she is more than she is. The way she has illustrated the goodness, the oneness of all life and diversity. So do take one.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. That is. I love it.
Thank you. And this is the kindergarten book that you can get on Amazon.com. And I feel very...
The biggest job of that little book was making it that little book, because originally it was 3 great big books, all of Betty's wisdom. And the publisher said, oh, but we can only do 1. So then there was that compression factor, but still there is love in everything. This is a good bedside book.
Well, it is for any age. And in the back...
about wonder. That book is all about wonder. Yes. It's all about wonder.
And for some reason, someone got the idea of putting down what the kindergarten children had written in their old age. Now that they were, and so there's 3 or 4 pages of remembrances. I mean, it just is amazing that the tributes they pay to what one has that is needed by all of us. The love, the beauty, and the strength that comes with being associated with the young. So I feel very fortunate to...
How do you preserve the sense of wonder in kids? I mean, I haven't read the book, but could you speak a little bit on that?
Yes. They see you in the garden. They feel your wonderment. It's all imitation at first until they grab it. But you must have them around people filled with love. This is my kindergarten teacher's creed, which says, I bring the gift of myself to this celebration of life we call the kindergarten. I come each day to be refined, smooth, tempered. You see, you learn so much from them. They're educating you. For I hold in my hands with wonder and gratitude the future. Now, seeds of the future are in the oneness of all nature and all people, in tune with the divine, to be found in our hearts, that I give through the joy and beauty of love.
Wow.
You see, the kindergarten teacher must have this love of life that vibrates, and their children feel it. Don't ever let anyone in the kindergarten who hasn't it. It just will not work.
And Betty, tell us about when a child is having a little bit of a difficult time or finding that in himself. What you do.
Well, I want you to all walk around my garden, and there is a mirror there, and you stand in front of the mirror, and you can see what is written around it. Right? Well, but in my kindergarten, I had a magic cupboard. They were making shelves, and I said, shelves? I need a door on those shelves so I can open it up. And I had a mirror on the back of the door, and I would stand the child in front of the mirror, and I would put my hand on their shoulder, and I would say, how could you possibly have forgotten how wonderful you are? And they would just melt. I said, look at yourself. Look at you. Look at you. I mean, I just wanted them to know. But around the mirror I have, thank you for every magic moment that makes it possible for me to stand here and to feel how truly wonderful I am. Nothing we've done, my dear. It has all been given to us as a gift. Through all the ages, all the people who built on the different ways of living so that we could have our particular way at this moment. Unbelievable gratitude. Unbelievable feeling. And the way our bodies put together, and you really don't know how your body's put together until you're in your 90s. And then you know, oh my gosh, how can this be? And be so grateful for all of it. So my dear, that's what I feel when I say I bring the gift of myself to this celebration of life that we call the kindergarten.
Thank you. To all of us. Yeah. To all of us.
And every year, and I remember this being 6 years old, Betty would invite the class out here to the garden, to the home, and have a picnic. So we would run around the garden and go down into the creek right back here, catch tadpoles, and it was magical. And the little train would run, and you're one with this magic and this imagination that was just absolutely nurtured. And it's still here, you know? And I think we all feel this today in the land and what you've nurtured and the love. So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you.
Anna,
How?
can you share a little bit about what you shared with us when you were walking through your parents' evening ritual?
Oh,
That was so beautiful.
So every afternoon my parents walk around the garden, and it used to be 3 times around the garden, but now it's once. But so over the years my father has created. My mother has the ideas, and my father manifests them. So it's a good match in that way. And he loves to build, and he's the one who did the plays here in the amphitheater, and he's the one who loved trains. And so, and my mother was a kindergarten teacher, or is a kindergarten teacher, and knows the power of play. So, so they have just renewed their sense of joy and play forever and always, just through their marriage, because they're always creating and always gathering, I should say. So every
This
evening,
is our best creation.
so every evening they go for a walk, and then they sit in the back. You can see there's a little swinging rocking chair, and they overlook the creek, and there's a little peninsula across the creek where the woods are. And they just sit there, and what do you say and do?
We count our blessings. Not once has Willis forgotten to say, "Oh, how fortunate we are." He says it in so many poetic ways that it's just brings to me this magical happening that we met and that we have. I wouldn't marry a man without a house. So he was able to get this house, and we moved in.
No, but you should say that. Tell about the town grade.
Oh, yes, I had taught third grade in Old Town, which is now Old Town, and my third grade room was in the California Cafe. So if you ever go there, you'll see a plaque on the wall, and it will have all the third grade children I had in that particular room. And I love it because it's a place to eat. I mean, I fed the soul, they're feeding the body. I mean, and the creek ran in back of it. The creek is now covered over with highway. It's gone. But I would take the children down there and read Wind in the Willows. And I hear from them all the time, these old third graders. And so I thought we should get together. So we got together about 2 months ago. And they remembered every song, every story, every poem we ever taught. And then I had saved all their letters, because when they, the last day, I would have them write a little goodbye note. And so I would read some of them, these goodbye notes, and one would say, "Oh, Miss Wesson," that was my maiden name. "Oh, Miss Wesson, I'm so sorry I'm so smart. I don't want to go and leave you. I want to stay." It was so sweet, just so sweet. They're all just very charming letters. And I had those letters and I read them. And in fact, in the back of the Wind in the Willows book that Annie dug up somewhere in the house, the same book that I had read to them when I was down sitting at the creek with them, was a little report by Drusilla Green, which is one of the third graders. Oh, she was so thrilled to see that. Come into my room, and she said, "Oh," and she'd take everything off the wall and everything down, and write down all the things I was doing, saying, being. And she was a supervisor, and I thought, I could be a supervisor. So I applied to San Mateo County, and I was hired to be a supervisor. And I had charge of all the third grades, all the second grades, all the first grades, and all the kindergartens. And it was there that I realized kindergarten was it. That's where you have the parents, you have it all. But anyway, so while I was sitting at my desk in the San Mateo County office, which is in Redwood City, I received a telegram, because when Willis proposed to me, I said, "Willis, I can't marry you. You're my friend. And besides, I need an older man to take care of me." Well, now I realize you need a younger man. Willis was 2 years younger. And so then I said, well, he didn't give up. So I said, well, Willis, I'll tell you, I will never marry a man without a house. So one day, while I was sitting at my desk in the county office, I received a telegram. There was no days when you could receive telegrams. And it said, have house, will you marry me?
Oh, very sweet.
And so I sent
And this was it?
Yes, and so I sent a telegram back saying, yes.
Oh, beautiful.
And so we've been married 60 years.
That was great stuff.
And Betty, can we share your toast?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Could you read this? Would you like me to read it for you?
Yeah, you can.
Betty, I don't know how many years ago.
I don't know, but you see, Willis never has to shop for any gift. He writes a poem.
Oh.
So this is a poem for Betty. Toast to a liberated wife. To that womanhood without which there is no manhood. To that independence without which there is no belonging. To that love without which there is no mystery. May that mystery never be solved.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What a beautiful marriage. What a beautiful marriage.
And you could read about the perfect husband in a book that was written. It's called
Willis Peck, sir.
Willis Peck, Saratoga. And I was writing my own book about the perfect husband, and April, who's put that book together, said, Betty, I have to have a chapter in my book about that. So I said, well, all right. So I tried to squeeze it all in, but anyway, it's in there. And you can get a copy of it down at the Historical Foundation.
So Betty, what was it that what made you this way?
Well, you know, who knows? Who knows? But I was very fortunate growing up. Unbelievably fortunate. I was born in the most beautiful street in all of San Francisco called Edgewood. If ever you go to San Francisco, be sure you go to that street. It's all brick, all Maybeck houses. My father owned 2. And then after that, we moved to Southgate, where my father had many houses. And Southgate, I went to kindergarten, and my kindergarten teacher was chosen by the gods. Unbelievable, unbelievable woman. She had a little monkey puppet that she kept on her shoulder, and everything was conducted by this puppet. And she would say to the little puppet, well, now, what do you think we should do about Joey's wet socks and shoes? You know, and the little puppet would speak, you know. And so the little puppet ran the kindergarten. Because the puppet knew everything. And and then my sister Janice was born, and my whole kindergarten.
Sister Barbara.
Janice.
Janice, okay.
And my father stood out on Long Beach Boulevard. You can't do that now. And held out his hands, and we all walked across to my house, which is a couple of doors down in Southgate, and to see my baby sister. And we took a little gift. It was a little rattle. And here was my mother, my father, my baby, my kindergarten teacher, my kindergarten friends. The world was mine. I just felt it had given me such joy. It was a wonderful feeling. And then my father, during the Depression, nobody could pay their rent, so he moved up to Modesto, where his farm was, 40 acres. And my mother took one look at the house and said, it's much too small for me and my 6 children. have the men bring the hay wagons up and we'll sleep on the hay wagons. So they pulled these hay wagons up, and here we were on this wonderful alfalfa hay high up under this black night sky with the meteors going across like this. You know, we're pulled around by the Milky Way. And so here we were caught up. And at that moment, I became one with the universe. At that moment. And I read several years ago that that was the year the world, the night sky did explode and all these new adventures happened. And then my other thing that made me more than I really was at the time was that I had learned to read. And I ran home from first grade as fast as I could. And by now we were living in Los Angeles. I ran home as fast as I could to read my book. And I said, Mother, I've learned to read. And we sat in the closest chair near the door. And I said, I've learned to read. And I read her every single word in this little paperback book kind of thing. And then she said to me, now read it backwards.
Oh, no.
She didn't believe I had learned to read. And at that moment, I became more than myself because I knew that I could know things she could never know. I had become my true self at that time. And I read it backwards, more thrilled, more excited, more joyously than I had read it the other way. Here you are on this hay wagon, this wonderful aroma. Here you are, this black night sky. I had never seen a black night sky before because I lived, you know, in the city sort of. Black night sky. And these stars going like this. And I was just caught up. I felt such a part of it, of the oneness of the entire universe, of the oneness of that night sky, and that light that was flashing around. And it was just, and to be on a farm, and also my father worshipped me. He felt I could do no wrong. He felt I was it. I was the oldest of 6 children. That's why I didn't have a chance to be anything but a teacher. From Mills College, and a master's from UC Berkeley. Loved words and loved stories and loved books, and she would have classes come into her house and give book reviews and
Teach writing, too.
teach writing. Yeah, she taught writing. And so that's my husband's life. And so St. Francis said, preach always, but seldom with words.
Oh, you are the role model for that.
Well, do take one of these, my dear, and thank you so much. That was so sweet of you all to
Thank
sit
you.
here and listen to all of this. But I have been very fortunate. And then to have 2 such wonderful children. The essence of what it's all about is Anna Rainville.
It's so beautiful that the family is all living here.
Yes.
Your commitment to Thursday salons and tea, your garden and home is always open. So beautiful. Thank you.
No, my dear, these wonderful friends that I have, they just, as I love that word, vibrate, they just vibrate with life. Look at Jackie, she knows everything. Look at Jack, who does more than gardening in the world of the Japanese gardens. And look at Jerry, who knows every story in the world and makes them up as he goes along. And
Well, I might say I and my family learned how to live from Betty and Willis and the Peck's way of life. I think otherwise we would have led an ordinary, unappreciative life. But sharing your lifestyle changed our lives. And I'm sure there are many families that feel that way.
thank you. Well,
So I like to say the first 60 years are the hardest. And now that we've done this, I think there's a better, even chance that we can stay there.
grandmother loved poetry and loved to read to me, and she was right there. And her favorite thing of saying was, "I love you more than tongue can tell." And she would read all the stories and all the poems, and it was really quite exciting and wonderful to have that kind of a grandmother. And I worshipped at her feet.
But do you have a spiritual teacher? She has a hotline to the heavenly worlds. Direct.
And but maybe I could ask you about that. How has your experience been of her spirituality? When you say that.
Well, there's one story that when I used to arrive home and they'd pick me up at the airport, and she'd always bring something from the garden, like a rose from the garden, and that would sort of be the gift. And one time she just was too much in a hurry, so she met me at the airport and said, "I am the rose."
Well, another thing Betty used to say, and she raised her children, and I learned this too, you want your children to have roots and wings. And you used to, and that's it, because this Peck family, has traveled all over. Look what Ann and the girls here, but their roots are here. And Betty, see if I'm right, when your kindergarten children their last day would graduate, you would let forth pigeons. Is that right?
I never would say this is the last day of school, never, because I didn't want them to think that could ever be true, because I wanted them to keep learning and learning and learning. So I would get some homing pigeons in my room, keep them for a while, and then on the last day, we would all come dressed in blue, and we would I would give them their little hearts of gold as I gave them their goodbye hug. And the mothers and all the family were there to say goodbye. And I would sing, "Fly away, my birds, fly away." And my aide and I, she had one pigeon, I had the other homing dove. And these birds would fly off. And we would sing, "Fly away, my birds, fly away, oh fly away, oh fly away, fly away, my birds, fly away." And they would go out the garden gate, and we would still sing while their cars drove off, because I wanted them to know that it was more to life and more for them to know, and this wasn't the end of school. No, it was going to go on for a long time.
But also in kindergarten, we started the day with a song, and it was always, "Good morning, little Bethel, good morning to you." And then to the next, "Good morning, Hobby, good morning to you." And all of us will remember. And my mother actually, when I was sharing that I was coming down to see you today, she said, "Get the good morning songs." We met our dear friends, the Ritter family, because Katie Ritter would run home saying,
good morning, Jimmy Burley. Good morning to you, because he was the first one with the B letter. So the families met through your good morning song.
And to this day, we are dear family friends. And so, beginning with the song, I mean, it's beautiful. It's so simple. It's so beautiful.
Well, I think when you ask about the spiritual teachers, I think you have to go and just live through the day or live through the week or the year, because it's so present. It's not a, it doesn't have to, it's not a, it's just a presence, and it's a living. And if you look at your library, there's just a little bit of everybody. And I was telling, I think it was you, that she only reads nonfiction, and she reads with a pencil, and underlines constantly, and writes in the back the page numbers of who it's for, and she'll call me up and read to me, or she would always read aloud in the car, and it's everything from, Frank Lloyd Wright to, Carl Jung, or Joseph Campbell, or Brian Schwimm, or Michael Lerner, or Phil, John O'Donohue. Just all of these, she's just a voracious, insatiable appetite for the spirit and ideas.
I must say that later on I would have them come and celebrate my birthday, because I always celebrated the children's birthdays in some wonderful way. And I have them up there on the high deck up there, and I give each one an apple, which I learned from Annie, apple with a little candle in it. Meaning the body and the soul with the light. And I would call them each up, and I would light their candle with my candle, and I stood there. And all the mothers and children were around the circle. And as each one began to light their own little apple that they had, I realized that it was the teacher, it was my own self that was being given the light from these children, and not the other way around. Very important. And there it was, there we were. And then I'd have the bell ring down below, and the bell would ring out my years, and I would think what was happening when I was 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, and so forth. And it's a very exciting thing. Now I can't ring it because the neighbors get all excited for something awful's happened when I get that many rings. But it was the children's light that lighted me, that made me who I was. And this is the way I have felt about teaching and about all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any final words for the younger generation?
Well, I want you all to have a mirror in your house somewhere, and around it say, thank you for every magic moment that makes it possible for me to stand here and to feel how truly wonderful I am. That's it.
Maybe just before leaving the house, Anne had come to pick me up very sweetly, and I was like, I want to take something to her from all of us, and went to our bookshelf, and this is a beautiful book that I would love to gift you. It's called To Bless the Space Between Us by John O'Donohue.
Oh, I love him. Every word I love.
And there's just one poem that I'd like to share called On Presence, that I think is to share presence in the way we have today has been so beautiful. And so this one says, awaken to the mystery of being here and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Receive encouragement when new frontiers beckon.
Respond to the call of your gift and the courage to follow its path. May warmth of heart keep your presence aflame. May anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. Take time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. Be consoled in the secret symmetry of your soul. May you experience each day as a sacred gift woven around the heart of wonder.
Isn't that sweet? Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have that book, and it's one of my favorites.
From cotton.
Ooh.
Yeah. It is made in our ashram, Sabarmati ashram,
Gandhi Ashram.
Gandhi ashram. So children made this.
Thank you. Oh,
Place cards.
oh, it feels so great.
Like this.
Jade, you'll have to feel this.
Beautiful. You can put them on a table, you know, they're small, simple reminders.
Lovely. What does this mean?
Truth, love, and compassion.
Feel.
Yeah. Isn't that just right? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
This is truth, love, and compassion.
So in the ashram, they weave khadi fabric, organic cotton fabric, American fabric. So the leftover fiber is made into this paper.
So hand spinning and hand weaving.
Yeah, it's cotton.
It's the leftover fabric from the cotton, so you don't waste that.
Yeah.
And I forgot that there are these earrings as well that go with the...
This is from this same paper.
Ooh. What fun.
Absolutely. And lastly, there's a couple cards in here, but lastly, this is a book on meditation given to us by a monk in Berkeley, who's just this remarkable guy. But it's beautiful for kids because it's very simple and kids just seem to love it, and we just kind of spontaneously picked it up and thought you might like it. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
beautiful picture. Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Very lovely.
Meditation is not a method of achieving anything at all. It is peace and blessedness in itself. Oh, and each one has a little verse.
Oh, and you picked the right one. Loving kindness. Loving kindness.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh, my dear. Oh. Mm.
Sate ramiye, sate jamiye, sate kariye sara kaam, कायम रहे जो सौनी साथी, घट घट बसता श्री भगवान। शांति शांति शांति।
This is a song by Carly Simon. I think it's called Come Into the Garden or something like that. Come into the garden, its magical trees, dapple the sun as they sway with each lazy breeze. They'll set your mind at ease. Pretend you're a child with nothing to hide. Then we'll join hands and walk the universe swing wide. We'll lay
other side. Hold me, here we can soon be born again. The gates are unguarded, I've stolen the key to where everything holy inside us is free to run free, to smell and taste and touch and see. Hold me, here we can soon be born again. Trust me, believe we can still be born again. We've been sleeping all our lives, at last we can open our eyes.